Modern sports in Kenya owes its origin to the British colonization, where professional teams in form of clubs were formed by colonial British settlers and Asian contractors as early as 1922, before the establishment of formal schools. Sports were subsequently introduced in schools in 1925, with the syllabus for teaching sport through physical training in schools being produced in 1935. Football and athletics, track and field were the first sports to be professionally organized, and today in the 21st century, Kenya is not only in the leagues of the greats in terms of athletics and rugby, but other sports are now played professionally, and they include cricket, motorsports, volleyball, basketball, swimming and diving, team handball, netball, baseball, boxing, tennis, polo, weightlifting, hockey, among others.
It is the prayer and dream of every Kenyan to see sports growing into socio-economic venture with proper organization as an income-generating industry to support Kenya's economy. Recently, more Kenyans have embraced newer sports disciplines such as skiing. At 2018 Winter Olympics in Korea, we had our own Sabrina Simada Wanjiku representing Kenya. Let us explore more of such sports. This year, 2018, Kenya Under-19 cricket team played in the Under-19 Cricket World Cup in New Zealand. The Great Kenya Safari Rally, which lost its World Rally Championship status in 2002, will soon be back at the global event.
However, pundits and Kenyan sporting fans have criticized the management of sports in the country by the federations. It is against this background that the Ministry of Sports and National Heritage organized a strategy and reflection session with various Kenyan sports federations and associations and other stakeholders on the 11th to the 16th of June 2018 at the Abade's Country Club, Nyeri.
We can be the main economic driver in the country, and we've seen the potential. Since last year, July, Waziri, you can see the demand in this country. World Under 18, for the first time in the history of Kasarani, the field was packed to the brim. Then we moved to Sekafa in Machakos. That field could not handle the number of people. Then even the other day, we saw a simple match in Meru between Harambee Stars and the Meru Select. There were more people for the football match than for the luncheon.
I so much believe in transforming the sporting sector to be the backbone of Kenya's economy.
Games or sports have a lot of money. As a Kenyan, as a good Kenyan, you follow where the money is. So I'm trying to find out, how do people make money in sports? And why can't Kenya make the money that other countries make? But the most important ingredient are the young people. They are always there.
The Cabinet Secretary for Sports, Mohamed Echesa, says for the country to realize economic benefits accrued from sporting activities, programs for talent such must be in place.
Kenyans have embraced rugby as a sport, and it's popular from the grassroots, primary schools and secondary schools. The rugby leagues in Kenya are also attracting large crowds. As a ministry, we are committed to the realization of the government manifesto on improving the sports industry.
He says for Kenya to realize her goals in sports, counties must take a cue and initiate sporting programs.
We want to see a Kenya where county governments are effectively running their own league in different sports disciplines. This will run up to national level for inter-counties competition, enabling us select a strong national team or sports persons.
Echesa admits, however, that graft is the greatest impediment to the realization of sporting benefits in Kenya.
What ails our government or our nation today is corruption. I want to urge you, with due respect, let's try as much as we can and shun away from this disease called corruption.
Private sector applauded the initiatives being taken by the ministry to transform sports into an economic lifeline of the country, but said that sporting fraternity must claim its place in the Big Four agenda.
As everyone is speaking about the Big Four, you would expect that the sports sector is left out. Yet, in manufacturing, for instance, footballs are manufactured, sports gear is manufactured. It's important that as you look into the sports economy, that you break this down so that as the Big Four is being presented, you take up your component, your rightful space, and discuss the economy holistically.
And health being one of the Big Four, it was noted that sports can greatly contribute to the universal healthcare.
Kenya is moving towards universal healthcare. One of the easiest ways to achieve universal healthcare would be through sports. Because if everybody is exercising a lot, then we are not going to get sick. If we don't get sick, the cost of supporting universal healthcare goes down. But how many people have publicized that? Well, that's what we should be publicizing. So that we realize, if universal healthcare has to be achieved, sports has to be there. So sports become one of the big what? Big Four, it becomes the Big Five, one of the Big Five.
However, Gordon Oloch, the acting chief executive officer of the Kenya Academy of Sports, says the private sector must be engaged fully if sports were to be commercialized.
The private sector has not seen that linkage. They've not seen the linkage that we come into this as partners. They benefit, we benefit.
But have sports associations done enough to attract sponsorships from various organizations?
The way you package yourself, the way you package your sports, this one here, can make a big difference on who your sponsors are going to be. If you package yourself as supporting the interests of Ministry of Health, then when you go to Nairobi Hospital, when you go to Mata Hospital, you get sponsorship from there. Because they might not see the apparent connection between sports and health. They might not see the connection between insurance and sports.
Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Sports, Hassan Nur Hassan, feels that sports federations and associations in Kenya must be creative and innovative.
We see how sports organizations across the globe, across the world, are generating its own resources. This is a fact that is here with us. And therefore, I think federations have to, from my own naive point of view, federations have to look for ways of raising its own resources. And the best way to raise resources is to set your standards and your governance structures in place. I think in this country, the biggest challenge we have, the mega scandals that you hear all over. And anybody, if today I point a finger at the PS and says he's corrupt, he stands judged, he's corrupt. Because that is the thinking today in this country. So please, let us set our standards properly, our governance structures in place, so that people can be encouraged to come and invest in sports.
Federations and associations have been blamed as having contributed to the dwindling standards of sports and letting down Kenyan sportsmen and women when it mattered most. They have been engaged in endless squabbles over leadership and their constitutions.
We are talking about elections. Hapa ndipo huwa kuna kinyang'anyiro, niwaambie ndugu zangu. You look at the best practices, try and follow them, and these can be entrenched in your constitutions, followed straight away from what your international federation guides, and then to your national federation, maybe your national constitutions, and also by going outside the country to see what other bodies all over the world do. There are some standard electoral procedures that are normally followed.
Chief Executive Officer of Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya, Jafta Rugut, says anti-doping studies should be incorporated in the Kenyan curriculum to teach the young ones about fair play, because banned substances is a threat to sports globally.
By the time somebody reaches elite status, sometimes the motivations are different. Motivation could be just the price of money. Motivation could be fame and other things. And it will, that person does not think more in terms of right or wrong. and we want to inculcate this fairly early so that it becomes then easier to reach out to the athlete at the competition level later in life. This is a function where we are launching this memorandum of understanding with KICD. We approached Ministry of Education and they said it's okay because now the curriculum in Kenya is being revised now, I think, for the first time in many years. And they said there is a window there where you can approach KICD and KICD can work with you or with us now in ADAC to introduce values-based education in the curriculum so that it becomes part of, the passage of information. We want even to understand whether, even as we talk about pharmaceutical, medicine, whether herbal medicine and some of the supplements, you go to any gym and you'll find a lot of supplements here, and you'll discover that our act does not only cover competitive sports, even bodybuilding, even the other health facilities that we have. Could it be that we have our children exposed to certain substances in the name of food supplements, just to tone their muscles and make them look bulky? But in the event of doing that, we find that they have been exposed to certain dangerous, because the prohibited substances are not only unethical in terms of cheating, but it's also risky in terms of health complications.
Stakeholders say that for Kenya to have a real transformation that will see money flowing from sports to the economy, there must be a clear talent identification strategy.
Our talent spotting and our talent identification leaves a lot to be desired. It's not even methodical, it's not systematic, it's more than sporadic. A lot of exposure has not been given to a lot of prospective talent. Let's look at also the management side. How many of those people whom we entrust with talent spotting and talent development are actually equipped with the requisite skills to do so?
Additionally, Brand Kenya was encouraged to engage with federations and sportsmen and women in publicity strategies.
You cannot expect to use sports for your initiatives without talking to the sports people. Go to the sports department, go to the Ministry of Sports, work together. You can't go and pick their players and runners and just put things on them and run away with it. Plan together. Tax waivers for the equipment that these teams and individuals are using. There used to be a tax waiver for sports implements and goods, but I think something went wrong somewhere.
And that there has to be a broader look on the way sports is run in the country, all the way from mentorship programs to making sure the stadiums are full during events.
If you would have an initiative like Jaza Study, which comes to mobilize people, their families, friends, and every other person, regardless of age and other things, then sponsors would have an eye on us, and that would help us get money for our sporting activities.
Sports Kenya says it is undertaking major projects in construction and renovation of stadiums in line with Vision 2030 blueprint, but they are hampered by debts which are threatening to slow down their work.
There were budget cuts. We only got about 100 million. And towards the end of last year, because of the election and austerity measures, this amount was reduced to 25 million.
Sports CS has promised to continue working with various sports departments and share the little they have in terms of finances.
The Ministry of Sport, we've been allocated 2 billion Kenya shillings. In these 2 billion Kenya shillings, the salary, we have federations which we are supposed to be giving some small money whenever maybe you're stuck. Now tell me, with 2 billion Kenya shillings, what are we going to do with that money? So it means that as federations, also you people, need now to pull up your socks and see how you will generate money for yourselves. Otherwise, we as a ministry, we are there and we are going to work very closely. We have no problem working together with you. We are going to work together. Whatever little that we will be given with the government, we will make sure that we share.
The ministry is saying it is keen to transform sports in the country by inculcating new culture, setting new standards, and looking at ways in which sports can contribute massively to the Kenyan economy.